GC scored. What is GC scored, and where did it come from?
Okay.
I'm sure you get people who ask you that a lot.
Of course.
Because GC scored is it's an odd sounding name.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You are a very unique appearing woman.
Mm-hmm.
So where does GC scored come from? What happened in your life, in your experiences, in all of your knowledge and education? What happened for you to create GC scored?
Right. All right. That's a really good question. And Wintley Phipps, the gospel artist, singer, says, "It is in the quiet crucible of your personal, private sufferings that your noblest dreams are born and God's greatest gifts are given."
Now that's deep. So what I heard in that is the quiet crucible of the darkest, from the darkest depths of where you are, sort of that's where
GC scored was,
using a gardening
yes,
theme, that's where the seed is planted to start growing. So where was your quiet crucible?
Yeah, the private suffering.
Mm-hmm.
So let me tell you the quiet crucible story of how GC Scored was given birth. Way back in when my husband and I got married,
Mm-hmm.
Irwin and I got married later in life,
Mm-hmm.
2007. We were both in our 40s, and we moved out. We lived in Atlanta, and we moved to Indiana, where I took up a job as an assistant professor of counseling and human services. And, early stages of marriage, we're talking about having children and things like that. And we started to try, of course, mm-hmm. right? We started trying, really intentionally trying.
I know. I can see how much he loves you.
Right. and so we wanted to have kids, him more than I. And so he said, so we, did everything we know to do, but it came to a point where it wasn't happening. And so we went to find out what's going on, Is there a problem? Who is the problem with? What could we do? And initially, you go through all these tests. People who have had the journey of infertility mm-hmm. know what I'm talking about. It is an expensive process, expensive in terms of financial resources as well as emotionally expensive, cognitively expensive, mentally expensive. And to cut a long story short, we tried different interventions and none of it worked. We went to get a third or fourth opinion to Chicago, one of the big hospitals there that is renowned for fertility, genetic advising and counseling and things like that. And that was the last time, because when we were there, we felt like the doctor was screaming at us, saying, "You have what they call unexplained infertility. You will not be able to have any children without a donor or some type of surrogacy." Now, my husband is more, he was the one, and still is the one, who really wanted kids more than I did. And so on our way back, on our drive back from Chicago, it was it was like this, the statement, right? It was the quiet crucible of our personal and private suffering. And that is what out of that suffering. It was out of that suffering. You know, we were driving back crying and just asking God why, and talking about how the dreams, you know, you have dreams, right? You're thinking you're going to have a family, who the kid's going to look like, you know, all of these things. You know, we built a house that would be suitable for children. We purchased furniture that would be suitable for children so they wouldn't get their eyes poked out with, you know, edges, you know, things that have really sharp edges. All of that was in our thinking and our plan. And so now this dream has just crumbled. And it was so, in your gut. And so we had a 2-hour drive back from Chicago. And that was a very difficult, and it was almost like, it's not the beginning, but it was another chapter in this infertility journey. And so, if you know my husband, he has more of a bent toward moroseness, I guess, if that's a word. And you know, he sees the glass half empty, and I see the glass half full. And so we allowed ourselves to go through start that grieving process. And this is all after, like I said, all the different treatments we went through, after thousands of dollars spent. And on that drive back, we were asking, well, what do we do now? You know, and I kept asking God, I said, what do you want me to do? What is it? And that, I think that happened in March. And in April, God gave me this dream.
What was
Put
the
this dream within me.
What was the dream as you got it at that time?
To take what I do, to take who I have been all these years, all the work experience, my degrees, my life experience, where I'm from, and have it culminated in an organization. And it was one Sunday morning, because one of the things we always do would be, you know, early Sunday mornings we would be lying down and dreaming and talking about what we want to do and how we want to do it and all, you know, just planning and dreaming. And it was on one of those mornings that came to me, this is what you need to do. Take all your experiences, all your work experiences, life experiences, the place that you were from, that region, and give back. Give back. And so that's how GCSCORED, the Global Center for School Counseling, Outcomes, Research, Evaluation, and Development, was born. All of my life experiences culminated in this seed. It was it's like that was the DNA, all the life experiences, the successes, the failures, the dreams were in that seed. The seed was GCSCORED. And you know, we as humans, in our seeds, we have the DNA. Our DNA is in each cell, right? That was that for me.
So GCSCORED takes on such a unique experience on, first of all, what it does, what it is, and how it meets people where they are. How did this vision, this nurturing, because this is what I'm hearing, right? Mm-hmm. That you couldn't have your own biological children, mm-hmm. but there were so many children out there and people. There's so many beings out there that needed nurturing, mothering, and actually stewardship
Mm-hmm.
to be better independent adults.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How did the theology, for lack of a better word,
Mm-hmm.
of GC Scored come together? I mean, it's filled with acronyms.
Mm-hmm.
You know, social emotional wellness. You have so many terms
Mm-hmm.
that the seed that you planted drops a lot of different
Mm-hmm.
fruit.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me how that
Mm-hmm.
ideology came together.
about. Yeah, it was. I have to tell you, it was God. I was in a season. So once that happened, and I incorporated the organization April 10th, 2013, and things just started. God was literally, I tell people this, downloading stuff. Because I'm not a businesswoman. I'm a psychologist. I'm a counselor. I'm a educator. I'm a social worker, right? So to create an entire framework around what GC Scored is and what we do, our mission, our vision, all of that came directly from the throne. It came directly from God, and I was in a season of gestation. Really, I was in a season of being under the soil. You know, I was a seed going through that whole germination period, and during that time, I was creating ideas. The first thing that we did. I had to create the strategic plan. Never did a strategic plan in my life, and I created a strategic plan. I was talking with different friends and different family members, you know, asking about and doing my own research on Google how to write a strategic plan. And so that writing of that strategic plan helped me to crystallize many of the things. For example, our mission didn't start off as what it is now, but it was very wordy. So I had to take the initial mission and narrow it down to renew minds, transform lives, and create safer communities, because that is what I wanted to do. And I will also say that there's a scripture that helped form that mission, which was Romans 12:2. Be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, and then you will know the perfect will of God for your life. And this may not be theologically sound, but it is what I got from God, and that's all that matters to me. And so out of that scripture came this mission for GC Scored that we have now, which is renewing minds, transforming lives, and creating safer communities. So that's the mission. The vision was similarly wanting to make sure that people see themselves as mattering, that people have access to mental health care in a way that is not stigmatized, in a way that is not, you know, all up here and they are still unable to access it. So I wanted to demystify it. I wanted to make it culturally responsive. I wanted to make it accessible. I wanted to make it so that people from my region of the world, people that look like me, wherever they are, across the diaspora, would feel heard, valued, like they mattered, that they have a voice, and that they're not marginalized when it comes to mental health care. And so I set about to create a framework, the Cultivating Seeds System framework, to do that very thing. And that started with research that I was doing, that I engaged in when I started my job as a professor here. My research agenda was focused on school counselors' perspective, or the perspective of school counseling in the Caribbean, right? And so in 2010, 2011, 2012, I was traveling across the different Caribbean islands, conducting research with school counselors, parents, students, and other stakeholders in schools, teachers, across 5 Caribbean islands, to help me and help them understand what this school counseling or counseling is all about and how they can benefit from it. And out of that research came the conference that I convened in 2015.
What conference was that?
Okay, so the conference was the inaugural international conference of GCSCORED, and it was entitled Thinking Globally, Counseling Locally, Reaching Our Children, Youth, and Communities in an Era of Globalization. And that was from June 29th to July 1st. And we held it at the Hyatt Regency in Trinidad. It was amazing. And that was another walk of faith, because I didn't have any money. And God made it happen for me. It was very stressful planning an international conference from the US in the Caribbean. They'd never had one of those kinds of conferences where I was able to bring together over 25 different stakeholder groups from across the Caribbean, the US, and Canada. It was amazing, and you can get more of that information on our YouTube channel.
So tell me where it has gone since then. Where have you seen GCSCORED start to grow from where you planted it?
It has grown. We are doing work in multiple islands, some African countries, the US. And so we have expanded. We have the number of people we have reached. We've grown into, we have 2 or 3 separate, not separate, but divisions. We have 3 divisions. One is the Institute for Social Emotional Education, that deals with the educational arm of GCSCORED. Then we have LOWS, which is the Listening Oasis Wellness Space, which deals with the wellness arm of GCSCORED. And it just is so perfect, right? Those are the 2 things that I've always wanted to see come to light. I believe in increasing access through education, equipping and empowering individuals, and also I believe in wellness that is culturally responsive, accessible, makes sense, is relatable, and easy to utilize, easy to practical. Anybody can use it. And so those are the main areas. And we also have the Journal of Global Engagement and Transformation, which is for scholars and practitioners to share what they're doing. And that also is a part of an outgrowth of the conference. Because one of the things that we learned in the conference is there are people doing good work everywhere, but they're doing it in silos. And what happens when we work in silos is that the end user, the person who needs the services and the resources, they don't get it because it doesn't move from the silo to that person or people. So where has GC Scored gone since then? We have gotten, like I said, IC, Lowe's, JGET, and now we have several sub programs, right, that we do, like the RUMERTIME Family Summer Camp. That's a big signature program that we started in 2019. Now we have Shopify. We have our store that sells products, merchandise that is based on many of my quotes. We have not full-time, but we have more consistent contractors doing work for us. We have a beautiful website, and we're making inroads. We work with over 1,000 people a year to provide education and wellness support.
Tell me about some of the success stories that you're most proud. Well, I know you're proud of all of them. Tell me some of the success stories that really stand out in this moment.
Mm-hmm. One of the more macro stories would be that we, in 2022, this year, we officially launched GC Scored Eastern Caribbean in the island of Grenada, and we are getting ready to do some, roll out some projects there in the school system and also in the business sector as well. So that's on a macro level. So on a micro level, there's several stories. One I would tell you is our ARC show. I forgot to talk about the ARC show, the Access RUMERTIME Conversations podcast that we have on the second and fourth Mondays of every month. One of our guests, I'll talk about the fire chief. One of our guests, he is a fire chief in the area, an assistant fire chief, I should say. And he was on our show, black male, well established and educated. And he went through our training, our Wellness Champion training. It's a 10-week training program where we teach individuals about the entire cultivating seed system, and social emotional first aid is what we call it. And he was practicing it and continues to practice it and has seen how there's a quote that I have, behind every behavior is a belief. And he has seen that in his life on so many different levels, personal as well as professional. And he continues to tout it and encourage others to get the training and be a part of this process. It made such an impact on his personal life. He took it to his professional space and is trying to get, several of his colleagues engaged in the process. So that's one of the stories. Then I could talk about Javion. He came to our camp, had a lot of anger issues. I think he's 12 years old, African-American male. His mom reached out to us and, at her wit's end, didn't know what to do, how to help him. He would always talk about, wanting to kill himself, etc. And he came to our camp, and you can go onto our YouTube and listen to his story as he shares it. And some of the things that he has gained from attending that 2-week camp was being able to manage his emotions, recognize what he's thinking, and understanding that what you're thinking is what is going to show up in how you feel and how you behave. And so that was another, really powerful testimony from the work that we're doing. And there's so many more stories, There's a story of someone, a young lady in the northern part of Pakistan who is receiving services from us, but has to do it in such a way that she doesn't get caught. But we are the first place that she has sought, the Listening Oasis Wellness Space is the first place that she has sought social emotional support. And the reason is that we do not call it mental health because there's a stigma in her community about getting mental health counseling or therapy. And so she's able to take a chance because she knows if she gets caught, she could say, I'm not getting counseling, I'm not getting therapy, I'm just getting social emotional wellness support. And so we see that even the language that we've chosen very intentionally makes a difference. It increases access and removes barriers. So
where do you want to see GCSCORED go from here?
I want to see it continue to climb and to, again, just populate the earth, allow everyone. My goal is to have social emotional first aid and wellness champions in every home across this earth. That is my goal, because it is not a privilege, it should be a right. People should have a right to be able to empower themselves, equip themselves, educate themselves on how they can make themselves or heal themselves, by just using our 5-step process. It's accessible, it's culturally responsive, and I think my goal is there should be at least one wellness champion in every home, in every community, especially across the diaspora, but beyond. So that's my goal. So in closing, I would like to say the work of GCSCORED is not an Yvonne Larrier thing. It's bigger than me. It is a mission. It is a mandate. It was and is a ministry. And I could do no other. And I see how God has set up my family to do this work. Because many of my friends and relatives would say, you couldn't do this if you had children. Because it is very all-consuming and all-encompassing. And I feel it gives me joy. I don't feel like I am working. I don't feel like it's a burden. I'm excited. I'm always excited to see what next God is going to download and how he's going to keep tying all the pieces together, because that's how he does it. And that's part of why I say every piece matters, because every piece matters. Every piece matters.
That's perfect.